More Sierra storms and then midweek cooling, plus a look at our Father's Day forecast. I'm ABC 10 Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods looking at our weather impact forecast heading into a new work week. Most schools are already out for the summer, so things are really starting to pop as far as outdoor activities, camps, and all sorts of sporting activities. We have a heat advisory to kick off the work week, and that's going to largely be in play for the northern part of the Sacramento Valley. Just a little sliver of the Central Valley will be represented in that area, mostly through some of the elevations that will be dealing with that trapped heat and just don't cool down enough overnight to really get that relief from that nice delta flow. Futurecast model indicating that we will see a few pop-up thunderstorms primarily through the Sierra, so kind of a repeat of what we've been seeing the past couple of days. However, this time around, not quite as much overrunning as what we saw on Sunday, where we had a lot of cloud cover move through the valley, some upper valley locations getting a few sprinkles here and there for our Sunday. But today, it's all about the sunshine and slightly warmer weather ahead as well. We get a nice little delta influence, though, coming in from the Pacific, giving us a few morning clouds for Tuesday, but they erode very quickly, and we're right back to the sunshine and above average temperatures. As far as our temperature trend, we've kind of been all over the board here lately, swinging about 10 degrees or so Wednesday. Last Wednesday, hitting a high of 95, down to 84 on Thursday, courtesy of that delta breeze. Then we were right back to near 90 Friday and Saturday before a nice additional push of that delta flow coming in on Sunday dropped us to 84 degrees. It's been pretty favorable through the month of June as far as no extreme temperatures. We've seen some hot spots, certainly for the beginning of the month, but overall it's been a pretty favorable trend. No 100s, no record heat, and that's something to be said, especially for June. The month is young, but it doesn't look like we're seeing anything too extreme popping up in the forecast. As far as our heat risk, not much to contend with through the Central Valley. It's just because we have just a touch of that delta influence to keep us going just below the threshold of that moderate risk. In fact, most of that starting to erode heading into our Wednesday, just kind of peppered about throughout parts of the Central Valley. But overall, things are really going to be improving here over the work week. But that is going to lead us into our Father's Day weekend forecast, and we've got more changes in store. We'll keep these extended forecasts going on ABC 10 Plus. That is our free app on TV. You can download it wherever you stream for free on TV. In addition to the forecast, we've got weather explainers and our climate and weather specials there as well. In terms of our significant fire potential, it's mainly going to be right around where we're seeing some of the biggest heat to start off the week. This is basically going to be in place for a day or two, and then things will really start to quiet down as we get more moderate temperatures moving our way midweek through the end of the week. Now, it doesn't hang on too long, but just enough to kind of bring us out of that significant risk category. Our outlook for our thunderstorms continues to showcase the Sierra as well as parts of the northern end of the Sacramento Valley for our Monday. If you are out and about, just remember, avoid beach and picnics as shelters when there's lightning. Avoid the top of hills and open fields. You really want to be in an enclosed environment like a home. Stay away from water and avoid trees or tall objects as well. So get those camps and those hikes in early if you plan on heading up into the high country. Lightning can also spark fires. The fuel right now in the high country is just above that threshold where we would be really concerned with large lightning sparked fires. But certainly something that we'll be watching every day we get farther and farther from wetting rain. Preventing a spark, metal blades plus rock equals fire. So if you're mowing, just be aware, mow lawns, not dry grass or weeds. Also, properly dispose of cigarettes and matches. Driving along the freeway, don't want to flick something out of the car ever, but especially right now, because the brush is so dry around the roadways. Watch for dragging vehicle parts as well. This is a big time for hiking, camping, boating, all the things, and you might be towing something behind you. The go bag with the 5 Ps, we always like to remind folks to have people, pets, papers, prescriptions, and photos ready to go in your go bag. And if it really does start to ramp up for our fire danger, we'll follow this messaging with things that you can do in preparation for evacuations. But anytime we're heading into our peak fire season, we want to have things ready to go because things start to move pretty rapidly when we start to get into some critical fire weather. Heading into the middle of the week, we get a little bit of relief from the heat that will be building for Monday and Tuesday. It doesn't last too long into the 10-day forecast, but just long enough to give us a nice little break, courtesy of Mother Nature. River temperatures are still quite cold for some places. It's starting to become really variable. You know, early in the season, it's almost all snowmelt. Most of the rivers are running between about 50 to 60 degrees, but now we're starting to see some variety, and that may catch folks off guard. Sacramento, right around Rio Vista, the Sacramento River is about 72 degrees, whereas the American River below Folsom, where they're doing some releases, is at 55. Same situation, Tuolumne is at 54, whereas the San Joaquin River, much farther from snowmelt and releases, that's going to warm up a little bit more at 75 degrees. Sierra and foothill water still running in the mid-50s to right around the mid-60s, and that's pretty close to Lake Tahoe water temperature. If you're by the water, just keep in mind, wear a life vest. Always, always, always. First responders continue to send out that messaging. Keep a close eye on children. Avoid alcohol, and cold water impacts does impact our breathing as well as muscle control. When we're in some of those very cold waters, it can just kind of take your breath away and take you a moment to kind of regain where you are and control of swimming. Strong currents also equal tough rescues. We've seen a couple of situations already this season where folks were just kind of swept away, unprepared for how fast those currents are going. This is a time that a lot of us like to spend the time outdoors, whether it be hiking, running, cycling, swimming out at Lake Natoma or many of the beautiful lakes like Folsom. The countdown is on. We're 6 days away from Father's Day, and then we're going to follow it with Juneteenth, summer solstice, and can you believe we're only 25 days away from the 4th of July, kind of the peak of all the summer activities. So really, we're heading into a time of year where we start to get drier, warmer, and all things that just kind of shout summer. Our future wind gusts, this is a really great representation of why we're staying below the 100-degree threshold, and it's because of this little current coming in from the Pacific, this nice little breeze that will filter through right around I-80, the Delta, which will keep those areas a little bit cooler, whereas the farther you get from that breeze, the warmer the temperatures. Anybody that's lived here long enough knows we're not close enough to that Delta breeze to keep us below the 100. So we'll still see some points in the area that will reach right around 100, but overall it's not widespread. And when we get those breezes, it really helps to bring down those temperatures, kind of moderate it somewhat. By the time we get into our Friday and Saturday forecast, we're at or slightly below average. So a little bit stronger breeze, a little bit lower temperatures. We're watching the high pressure ridge kind of wane and lose its grip slightly across the west coast. It just starts to slide to the east ever so slightly. With it, we also will lose that risk of thunderstorms in the Sierra. So we're kind of in a quieter weather pattern for the middle and end of the week. Little low moving in just north of us will kind of initiate periodically that onshore flow, keep us a little bit cooler by Thursday and Friday. But on the heels of that, we get into this likely warmer scenario across much of California. Likely drier. Well, that being said, we just don't get a whole lot of rain anyway, so it's almost irrelevant if it's likely drier or wetter. If it was likely wetter, probably wouldn't mean too much because we only get about 1/4 of an inch of rain for the entire month of June. So even 1/10 of an inch for a week at a time would be above normal. Just kind of putting it into perspective. Highs for tomorrow in the 80s for the Sierra. We're in the 80s and 90s for the foothills. You're looking at right around 96 for Oroville. 60s along the coast. We're in the 80s inland, so you can really see how that significant Delta breeze helps to cool conditions for Rio Vista, 83, Fairfield at 80, Napa, beautiful 77 degrees. But farther from that, Tracy, we're at 91. Vacaville, just about 30 minutes from Fairfield, warms up to almost 90. And then we see that play out as well through much of the Central Valley, where highs are in the 90s to near 100. Calusa, we're going to keep it at 100 for our Tuesday forecast. As far as our 5-day regional forecast, you certainly see that cooling effect of a shift in our weather pattern. For the mountains, we'll lose the risk of thunderstorms and also take off a few degrees there into the 70s by the end of the week. For the foothills, we'll drop it into the low 80s. Now, it stays pretty consistent for the coast, but a cool day on Wednesday. Highs only in the upper 50s. It's always something to see folks come out of the Bay Area or the Valley in the 90s to near 100, and then go over to the coast and just be shocked how cool it is in the upper 50s. So just be aware if your travel plans take you there. 3-day forecast. We've got the sunshine, a little bit cooler for our midweek outlook, and a nice drop for the end of the week leading into our Father's Day weekend. But we jump those temperatures up just a little bit there on Sunday, back to near 90, and then it's low to mid 90s by the beginning and middle of the next week.